Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Warships with a mighty Jingles. It's a replay contest time once again. This time we're giving away a premium Soviet cruiser to the chap in the Battleship who did the most damage overall. It's probably not going to come as any great surprise that it's the Yamato, the Tier 10. Piloted, is that the right term? No, captained in this case, by Crustay. It's also probably not going to come as a great surprise to many of you watching when you look at the matchmaking that he's got in this match. Again, this is one of those games because that was the time frame in which the contest was set, right after the release of World of Warships. So Crustay is the only Tier 10 on his team, and there are 15 Tirpitz battleships in this match. No aircraft carriers. So he doesn't have to worry about torpedo attacks that he cannot possibly dodge, and there's only one destroyer on the enemy team as well. Matchmaking like this, well, yeah, it's not really any surprise that in this kind of matchmaking you're going to see somebody in a Yamato. I'm sorry, I've forgotten how to speak Japanese. I never knew how to speak Japanese in the first place. Shut up, Jingles. But it's not surprising that you're going to see somebody in a Yamato doing this kind of damage. However, while he's the only Tier 10 on his team, and the only Tier 10 on the enemy team is a Gearing class destroyer, the guy in the Gearing class destroyer is somewhat infamous on the North American World of Warships server. That's Duffy's 1. And you can see by the game chat there that they know exactly who he is, and they know exactly how much of a threat he poses. Crustay congratulates him at the start of the match for making it to Tier 10 and getting himself a Gearing. This guy has something of a reputation in destroyers on the North American server. Let me just quickly switch out. And yeah, I'm looking at his stats page right now. He has played 44.39% of his games in destroyers. He plays destroyers more than anything else. He's sunk 627 ships by torpedoes in 1,700 games played, and sunk 1,245 ships with his main battery guns in 1,700 games played. Yeah, he likes his American destroyers. His win rating is 60.44%. His average experience per battle is 2,001, and he does an average of 67,826 damage per game. As you can see in chat, Crustay is warning his team, kill Duffy's first. So, yeah, he may just be in a destroyer, but that's the American Tier 10 destroyer, the Gearing, and you're going to see Duffy's at some point during the course of this battle doing what he does best in that destroyer. But for now, back to Crustay in the Yamato. That's 3 different ways I've pronounced that so far. I don't know which one's right. I figure if you just throw enough shit at the wall, eventually some of it's going to stick. Is it the Yamato? Is it the Yamato? Is it the Yamato? I have no idea. It's not like you don't know which ship I'm referring to, though, is it? However you pronounce it, it is an absolute monster of a ship. It's got the biggest guns in the game. I think they're 18.1-inch guns. They're absolute monsters. It's like firing a fire truck at somebody from each barrel every time you pull the trigger. 6 guns mounted at the front, 3 at the rear. And there's a lot of clearance on that rear gun turret as well. So he's able to fire everything. Look at that. Look at that damage. That's without a citadel penetration. Yeah, this is gonna be fun. It's not all gonna go Crustay's way, however. You can see that he's leading from the front. I mean, he's spotted the enemy battleships and he's slowing down, but he's not hanging around at the back the way that you see a lot of Japanese battleship drivers do, letting the cruisers rush forward and absorb the enemy fire for them and just sitting around at the back doing long-range gunnery. He's getting stuck in there, and he's taking some return fire. Now, as you can see from his consumable count down at the bottom of the screen there, he's got a pretty well-experienced captain in charge of his ship. He's got 4 charges of the repair consumable, and he is going to need them. And he's got 8 charges of the catapult fighter. He's not going to need the catapult fighter so much in this game, except for when it comes to attempting to spot ships that are out of range, because there's no carriers. So, look at that. See the damage he's doing there. And these are not citadel penetrations. These are just armor-piercing shell hits. There's the first Tirpitz, consigned to Davy Jones's locker, and there's just this huge mess of enemy ships up here. Somebody's really getting the money's worth out of their torpedoes there. Look at that. Do you see that Tirpitz over there on the left? He had actually made it out of the line of fire after losing a whole bunch of health crossing the open water, and then decided he was going to stop and reverse back into the line of fire, chewing on a torpedo as he went, and exposing himself to even more gunfire. So yeah, he's not long for this world. That Tirpitz up front also appears to be reversing. Did he run himself aground? I don't think he did, but is it any wonder that people are doing absolutely monstrous amounts of damage when they're playing against players like this? There's his first kill, and again, not a citadel penetration, that's just armor-piercing shell hits. Blew that Tirpitz right out of the water. But look at these guys. In the open, stopped, slowed, or reversing, and they wonder why they're sinking. Another point to note about the Yamato, look at that guy over there. Over 8 kilometers away, and he's hitting him with his secondary gun batteries. They have a base range of 7 kilometers. You can increase that with various different equipment modules and commander skills, and yeah, 8.2 kilometers away, and he was nailing that guy with his secondary batteries. Just to put the secondary batteries on the Yamato in a context for you, it has 24 127mm guns and 6 155mm guns. That's like having a couple of destroyers bolted to each side of the ship, right? It is just silly the amount of firepower this ship can put out. Trying to get close enough to one of these things on open water in a destroyer to successfully launch torpedoes at him is a real test of nerves. Let's just put it that way. And once he closes to within 9 kilometers or so of another battleship, all of those secondaries, well, they don't do a huge amount of damage by themselves. Every single secondary battery... Oh, wow, did you see that? Citadel penetration there. 24,000 damage. But yes, the secondaries fire high explosive. So even though they're not doing a massive amount of damage by themselves compared to the main battery guns, every single hit that they score has a chance of setting your target on fire. So you can be firing armor piercing in the main battery 18.1 inch guns and set your target on fire by spraying him with high explosive. There's his second kill. Another citadel penetration. Spraying him with high explosive from your secondary batteries. And you can see the beating that he's taking here. He's definitely leading from the front in exactly the way that you should when you're in this ship. But he's quite clearly decided that he's taken more than enough of a beating for his team. He's already expended 1 charge of his damage repair consumable. It's almost off cooldown. He's going to use it again. He's probably lost about 80,000 health so far, leading the team up front and taking the hits for the team. And it's paying off. They've only lost 2 ships, and the enemy team are down 4. There goes his second charge of his damage repair consumable. And this is absolutely the way that you should be doing it when you're in a ship like this. Getting up there, up front, absorbing the damage, and taking the hits so that your team doesn't have to. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to go sailing off solo in your battleship. His team did back him up, and this is why, at the beginning, you didn't see him steaming off full speed ahead. As soon as he got within engagement range of the enemy team, he slowed it down to half speed. Made sure that he had backup, so that there was somebody else to take over from him when he had to pull back, retire, and recover some of his health. You have to strike that fine line, get that balance between hanging around at the back and basically just engaging in a long-range gunnery and waiting for all your cruisers to die for you, and rushing off ahead like a solo warrior. That damage repair ability does not mean you're Superman. It needs to be used wisely. It doesn't mean that you can sail into the teeth of 4 enemy battleships alone and expect to win. So he sailed up front. He's basically tanking for his team, using his health as a damage sponge so that the rest of his team don't have to suffer the withering fire of all those enemy battleships. And now he's recovered his health. Oh, have a look up ahead. Do you see that steady stream of fire coming in from the enemy ships towards the friendly ships down to the southern end of the map? There he is. He's just popped up and been detected. That's Duffy in the gearing, the American Tier 10 destroyer. That's him. That's what he does. It's unusual that he's been spotted, but he's staying at such long range, and he's in a very small and manoeuvrable ship, that those battleships are going to have a real hard time hitting him. Just look at that constant stream of shots. And he's gone again. We'll see more of him later, or rather, we won't see more of him later, but we'll see some of his gunfire. Who are you going for now, Crustay? That's not looking too good, actually. The enemy team have 3 of the capture points. It's, well, they've already capped, so you can't reset, but you can at least sink some of the ships in the capture point. So he's going for this. Oh, look, it's a Tirpitz. Who'd have seen that one coming? Shots out. Yeah, no, all missed. Never mind. Choices, choices, choices. Which way are you going to go? It really does look like that cap point over there needs more of your gunfire. There are only 2 enemy ships up ahead. They're being engaged by at least 4 of your ships. This is where you need to start sending those 18.1 inch shells. And there's the enemy Izumo, tier 9. Interesting design. It's a lot like the Nelson class of battleships. All of its guns are up front, 3 turrets, no guns to the rear. And no, that was close, but not close enough. No hits. Enemy ships up ahead, being pursued. They've just lost another one. So the enemy are now down 5 ships to Crustay's 3. See the damage holes there from where he took some hits from those Tirpitzes. Guns almost reloaded. Guns are reloaded. He's going to go for that Tirpitz again. Tirpitz on full health or as near as damn it. Shots out. Let's see how they go. Oh, it's looking pretty good. 9 shots fired. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hits. No citadel penetrations, but still around about 20,000 damage. They know Duffy's is down there somewhere, spotting for these guys. And it's there in chat. For God's sake, kill him. I can't kill what I can't see. 2.44 kill per death ratio on this guy. He is a menace and a destroyer. Well, they finally sunk that final battleship that they were pursuing up to the north, and now it's occurring to the team that perhaps they should turn around. I mean, there were a lot of ships chasing that guy. Probably too many. They are ahead on points. But that's because of the number of ships that they've sunk. They've now sunk 6 enemy ships, 5 battleships and a cruiser. And that's what's given them the points advantage, because until recently, the enemy team controlled the majority of the capture points. And that's why the enemy team, despite having only sunk 3 ships, are, well, they're behind, but they're not that far behind. So, with nobody left to pursue to the north, it's definitely time to start turning these ships around and heading back south. And Crustay has hung around at this kind of range so far for 2 reasons. 1, he does not have a massive amount of health remaining, and 2, he was waiting for those 2 other ships up further to the north to finish off the battleship that they were pursuing and turn around, so he's not going to be sailing alone into the teeth of all of these enemy ships down there to the southeast. Now the guys to the north have got nothing better to do with their time but turn around and head to the relief of these 2 friendly ships who are, well, probably not going to still be alive by the time we get there. But Crustay is turning around now. He has some backup and support, so that, well, it's one of Murphy's rules of combat. Never underestimate the value of teamwork. It gives the enemy something else to shoot at. And so now is the right time to turn around. Although he has been keeping up the barrage on these guys, doing, what he can without making himself a huge target for as much as humanly possible, but he's starting to attract some fire now that he's turned around. He's bringing his guns to bear. Who's he going to shoot at? It's going to be the Izumo. Shots out. Let's see how he does with these. Looks like some return fire coming. Yep. Yeah. Not so good. I've seen better. He's taken some hits, moderate damage, but, ooh, actually, well, it's a lot of moderate damage. He's definitely becoming the focus of fire from more than one of those enemy ships. So he uses his 3rd charge of his damage repair consumable and peels off and waits for some of those other ships behind him to catch up and give the enemy team something else to shoot at. Now, while he's doing this, you'll note that one of the players on his team, Darth Duck, that's him over there in the New Orleans class cruiser. He's the guy that captured the C point, and now he's all the way over there on the other side of the map, and he's ninja capping the A point as well. And so for the first time since this game started, Crustay's team are ahead on capture points. However, you can see the Tirpitz over there, driven by Bobby Bones. He's sneaking into the D point. The D point is now contested, but he's not going to be hanging around in there. And oh! Fire requested at a priority target. They've spotted Duffy's. There he is in the gearing. And these are shots coming in from him. Now he knows he's been detected. And so he's going to pop his smoke screen. And everybody's going to try to kill him. And there he goes. Just like that, he's gone. But just because you can't see him doesn't mean he's not there. As Crustay is lining up some shots on this other Tirpitz, you see all those shots sneaking in across the bottom of the screen? And they're basically pummeling a friendly Tirpitz who's attempting to defend the cap here. There he is, on fire, burning in what looks like 2 separate locations and taking a constant barrage of hits from that Gearing class destroyer, tucked away in his little smoke screen. And it's ideal matchmaking for him as well, because, well, there was only 1 destroyer on Crustay's team, and he's been sunk. No aircraft carriers to spot him with aircraft, no other destroyers remaining to root him out from his smoke screen, so he's basically shooting fish in a barrel here as well. Just look at the volume of fire going in on that Tirpitz. And you can see him. Well, you can see the shots. You can't see the smoke screen because Crustay's zoomed in. The smoke screen is actually there. This is just an there it is. It's just an artifact of what it looks like when you're zoomed in. He's going for the Isimo. And Duffy's has just popped up and bang! Citadel penetration. 5 good solid hits and a Citadel. One of which was a Citadel on the Isimo. And there's his Confederate award. But Duffy's has just switched his fire and he's nailed Wolf Maximus in one of the friendly Tirpitzes. That's now his 4th kill. That's why that guy is such a menace when he's in a destroyer. His record for damage done in a battle, by the way, is 299,000. And I think it was in a destroyer. And an American destroyer, so you know that the majority of that damage is going to be with his guns. Speaking of guns, another Tirpitz spotted, shots out. How's this one looking? Doesn't look too bad. Damn, all missed. It's kind of ironic that in the Battleship winner replay video, the focus of the conversation is more on what the enemy destroyer is doing. Look at that poor old Tirpitz at the back there, just being punished by this hidden destroyer, while Crustay lines up for yet another salvo at this Isimo. But you'll notice that Duffy's in the destroyer has stopped shooting. Why is that? Just as Crustay scores another Citadel penetration and earns himself the high caliber award, and almost sinking the Isimo in the process. Yep, torpedoes in the water. That's why Duffy stopped firing the guns. He was trying to get close enough to ensure that he had enough lead, because he's firing torpedoes at ships that are steaming away from him, enough lead to be able to chance a shot at that Tirpitz. And now he's fired his torpedoes, he's going to have slowed down, and so he's no longer in detection range, and here come the shots again. The Tirpitz has managed to avoid the torpedoes, and Crustay is like, oh, hell. That's a lot of torpedoes behind me. Swings it around, tries to stay safe. Look at the fire coming in there. It's just like a shell hose coming in from that gearing. It's just... What can you do about it? You know, if you're in the position of that Tirpitz there is nothing that you can do about this. You can't outrun him. He's faster than you. He can just keep you at the perfect range to be able to keep that barrage up, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's because of the matchmaking. It's because of the screwed up matchmaking from World of Warships going live and so many people rushing out and buying Tirpitzes. And that's why you're seeing so many games like this. There's just Tirpitzes as far as the eye can see, and I'm pretty sure Duffy is about to claim his 4th kill on that poor guy. It's, yeah, there's no question about it, and there it is. There's his 5th kill. Jeez. There's been some sterling work in this game from Darth Duck in the New Orleans class heavy cruiser. He's been capping, he's been defending the cap points. It's thanks to him that his team is ahead on capture points, but it's thanks to that utter bastard in the gearing that they're going to lose. Look at the points difference. Well, it's kind of close. I mean, oh, hang on a minute. The Tirpitz at the back just died. You know what that means, don't you, Crustay? That means you're next. Duffy's gunning for you. You've got to sink an enemy ship in order to keep your team in the game. And here comes the fire from the gearing. You've got to sink this Tirpitz with his barrage, or they're going to win on points. He's making extra sure. And Duffy's has almost found his range, and here it comes. This is it to win the game. It's hit, but it's not enough. And the enemy team are going to sneak it in on points thanks to Duffy's in the gearing. Tier 10 American destroyer, and he's just been spotted, and he doesn't really care at this stage. He's staying outside of secondary gun battery range, and bang, there it is. They've lost. That's Crustay with 411,000 credits and 2,500 experience on a defeat. His base experience not far short of 2,000. And it's all because of the matchmaking. It's all because of all of the Tirpitzes that people bought, jumped into battle, and found themselves getting farmed for easy kills, XP and credits by the guys in the tier 9s and 10s, who actually knew what they were doing. Guys like Duffy's one there. There he is, in the gearing. Over 2,500 base experience. I'd love to have seen his replay. I'm just glad he doesn't play on the EU server. I wouldn't want to run into him on the enemy team. So, how much damage did Crustay do? Well, there it is. 189 main battery shots fired, 77 hits, 69 penetrations for 246,941 damage. What's more interesting, though, is if you have a look at the number of secondary battery shells fired, 195. How many of them hit? 17. Seriously? And they did 2,473 damage. They didn't even set any fires. I do realise that I give Battleship drivers a lot of stick, mostly for the dumbass Battleship drivers who sail around obliviously in straight lines when they're under fire, there are torpedoes in the water, or there is a distinct threat from enemy destroyers. And frankly, I think they deserve all that they get. But not every Battleship driver is like that. When you look at stats like that, 195 secondary battery shells fired and only 17 hits, you've got to ask yourself, what's the point of having secondary batteries? I mean, I've sunk a couple of destroyers with my secondary batteries on my Nagato. But it's becoming increasingly apparent that that's down more to luck than judgment. I do feel that battleships definitely need some kind of buff. The buff to the very, very short-range accuracy of the main battery gun turrets was a step in the right direction, but they definitely need to go further. I think possibly buffing the accuracy of the secondary batteries would be a step in the right direction. But anyway, regardless, that's an argument for another video. Today, Crustay, thank you for sending that one in. I have never seen anybody get so lucky with the matchmaking, although relatively unlucky because you did have Duffy's one on the enemy team. But you have won yourself one premium Soviet cruiser, one Paladin-class Soviet cruiser, the Diana. As soon as I've been in touch with Wargaming, that will be credited to your account. Anyway, that's it for today. The next World of Warships video you see from me will be the wildcard category winner, and they'll be winning a Mikasa Premium Battleship. And the wildcard award goes to the person that didn't necessarily do a huge amount of damage, but just all-round impressed and entertained me with the standard of their gameplay. That's it for today, folks. As always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.